And we're live.
Okay. Welcome to the June 15, 2023 meeting of the Academic Affairs and Research Committee of the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees. The meeting is being held in person with some committee members participating remotely. At this time, I'll conduct a roll call attendance to determine if a quorum is present. Please clearly respond present via WebEx or present in person when your name is called. Neil Kerwin, present via WebEx. Charles Fogarty.
Present by WebEx.
Richard Humphrey. Melissa Sutherland.
Present via WebEx.
Mark Palange. Mark.
Oh, he's muted.
Okay, you may be muted, Mark.
Okay, I have a new computer and it's not working. Present via WebEx.
Okay. I can announce that also Board Chair Margot Cook will probably join us a bit later in the meeting. I can declare a quorum is present, and so I can call the meeting to order. A reminder to all members, for the benefit of our audience and the note taker, please clearly identify yourself whenever you comment, make a motion, or a second to a motion. Participants using WebEx are required to keep their cameras on, as remote members and all persons present at the meeting location must be clearly audible and visible to each other. At this time, I'd like to also acknowledge that the University of Rhode Island occupies the traditional homeland of the Narragansett Nation and the Niantic people. Our first order of business is for me to request a change in agenda to allow for and to accommodate some scheduling issues on the campus. I would like to move to amend the agenda to include a report on enrollment by our Chief Enrollment Officer as the first order of business following approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve that change in agenda?
Charlie Fogarty, so moved.
A second, Neil Kerwin. All in favor, please say aye.
Yeah, aye.
Aye. All opposed? That change is accepted. Now we move to the approval of the minutes for the minutes of the April 6th, 2023 Academic Affairs and Research Committee. Those could be found in enclosure 1A. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Charlie Fogarty, so moved.
Do I have a second? Neil Kerwin seconds. Any discussion? There being no discussion, go for a voice vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The approval of the minutes is unanimous. Now, we will move immediately to the report of our Chief Enrollment Officer, Dean Jabuti, to discuss enrollment for the coming summer and fall terms. Dean?
Can you hear me okay?
I can
Yes.
now,
We
yeah.
can.
Great. Thank you for allowing me to present. We have new student orientation this morning, and Dr. Reynolds and I are welcoming 450 new students and their family members, so I appreciate it. I wanted to just give a quick.
We've lost you, Dean.
Dean,
Dean, we've lost your
we
audio.
can't hear you.
All right, how about trying that now?
Yeah.
That's good.
All right, I'm gonna put my slides back up.
All right.
I got you. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, appreciate the opportunity to share with you enrollment updates. Wanted to first a reminder that I come back in October and provide a full update, and this is a preliminary one. First of all, with respect to first-year undergraduate applications, we had another strong year with over 25,350 applications. The asterisk is because of the fact that we are still accepting some late ones, as we always do. And that's just 100 off our record. So let's see when I come back in October what we say. When you look at our applications, over 21,000 of them are from out of state and 4,297 are from in-state. A reminder for those, when I started this presentation about 10 or so years ago, this is a growth from when we had about 15,000 applications. Some select metrics on this incoming class so far. Average high school grade point average, and we are seeing an inflation of high school grade point averages post-COVID of 3.65. That's a high for us. We're bringing in 330 talent development scholars, and that is right on target as we had hoped. So far, 61% of our incoming students identify as female. 62% will be out of state. 31% are first in family to attend college, and that is something that we continue to see a strong representative of first in family. 37% of our in-state students received a Pell Grant, and the federal Pell Grant is a measure to identify a need. And our diversity index is at 25%, and that continues to be a strong creeping up indicator. When you look at where I think we're going to come in based on target, the numbers you see in front of you are actually target numbers, and then where I think we're going to be. So we were hoping to bring in 3,300 first-year students. Our in-state number of 1,335 will not be actualized, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. I actually think we're going to come in about 100 below that. Our out-of-state target of 1,875, we should be above that. In regional, the New England Regional Program, I believe will be above that as well. Reason why I'm saying where I think we'll be, I've talked a little bit about summer melt and the impact of students who are committed to a university and make decisions to go elsewhere based on getting off a wait list, deciding other things. And so our 3,300 number, again, strong for out of state, and in-state we struggled, and I'll be unpacking that in a second. Our incoming students have been identifying three major concerns through their application process. One is academics. They feel as though during COVID that there may have been some learning loss, but they know their grades are inflated. So they've kind of got this concern of, well, gee, I look great on paper, but how am I going to adjust to college? And we're working on that. 1 in 3 of their college essays was about mental health and wellness, their mental health, their families, and others. And we know that's a theme we've seen. And then the third is, creating friends and sense of belonging. Will I be alone? What happens if I don't make friends? And so those are 3 areas that we're going to be focusing on across the university. Transfer students. I always like to talk about our transfer numbers. As a reminder, 1 in 5 of our graduates transfer to the university, and we have a wonderful transfer team. So we have 1,357 applications. Notice the split difference there, in-state and out-of-state compared to traditional first year. Current deposits is at 436. If you look down below, you'll see our target is between 500 and 550. And I feel confident we will get there because that is still developing. While CCRI is our main feeder for transfers, we have 130 different schools represented in the 436 deposits so far of students transferring to the university. And we've worked very hard to build relationships out of state with feeder schools as well. 29% of our students are transferring are historically underrepresented diversity, and 72% of our transfers are in-state. And so transfers is an important pool. We worked very closely on that, and I'm pleased with how that is developing.
Dean, can I have a question on that?
Of course you can.
Dean, how concerned are you with regard to the change in the Promise program if CCRI is our main source of transfer students now that students will be able to go to Rhode Island College the last 2 years?
Thank you for that question. We used to bring in 1,550 to 600 in-staters. We are losing close to 200 students through Promise alone that we admitted that decide to go to CCRI. They are not completing at the rates to increase this. With the enhancement of Promise and the addition of the Hope Scholarship, I am concerned that our in-state transfer numbers will continue to struggle. And we are working aggressively with that relationship, but also developing relationships out of state as well. But I am extremely concerned. I feel as though some of the policy is almost becoming the enrollment management of the state rather than some of the stuff we're doing. So thank you for that question, and I appreciate the ability to answer that. Going on to some strengths and concerns of this year's recruitment, if I can. We continue to do really great innovative things on the road with social media, with our faculty, with programs. We really did some great cross-campus collaboration. This is a school that gets enrollment, and I could not be prouder of that. We've done a lot, I think I mentioned a year or two ago, focus on families and onboarding, and the feedback has been tremendous on families feeling like we have been the best at keeping them on board. And that impacts MELT, right? Lots with communication. I talked about our transfer team. I would like to talk about what I saw as concerns. And as you know, for some of you who've seen this presentation for years, I'm normally quite upbeat, but I want to be upbeat with some real things that happened. You know, the tuition increase plus economic inflation and the impact of college savings plans, which are 529, really were a big challenge for families and us in the market this year. No question about it. In addition, we had to triple residence halls for 4 of our colleges, and we actually saw a little bit of a decline in what our targets were. And the feedback from families was, I just don't want to be tripled. We get why you're doing it, but I might decide to go elsewhere. And so I'm glad we're going to be solving that long term, but there's no question that you saw some softness in yield in several of our programs that were tripled. And so, you know, the economic inflation value tripling was a challenge. New York threw me a wild card this year and offered in-state tuition to 22 New York schools for Mass, Connecticut, New Jersey, Virginia, and other residents to go to New York for in-state rates. Plus New Jersey state program, plus other state programs really had us competing in ways that I've never competed before. We talked about Rhode Island Promise and the excitement around Rick and the Hope Scholarship and what they're going to get. We heard from Rhode Island families, well, now I have 2 options if this gets approved. You know, the tuition increase and what we talked about in media and social media were related to our budget, right? We needed more funding. We were out there saying to the state, you need to invest in us more. That was an important message because of the disinvestment, but it did have noise in our recruitment plan. We were getting lots of inquiries. What does this mean? You know, what should I be worried about? I'll never forget, I got a call from a dad in New Jersey who got the Boston Globe story from Mass from his sister and said, I loved your welcome day, but should I be worried about this? And so our lobbying and working, which we need to do, does have an impact on recruitment. Talked about grade inflation and preparation. We're going to be needing to do a lot this year to help our students. Competition, let me tell you what was happening. So we were doing great. Mid-April, WPI goes to their waitlist early. UMass went to their waitlist before May 1. Many of our competitors followed. And so they were not only going to their waitlist, but they were offering additional discounting. And so I've never seen folks go to their waitlist so early. And you actually can see people who had paid a deposit to us that then withdrew their deposit before May 1. You know, and everyone in New England struggled but UConn. As I mentioned, WPI, many of the privates, and so you're seeing lots of offering additional financial deals to withdraw. And so, again, our numbers look strong, but this was some tough competition that we've got to keep in mind on. Any questions on that before I move to the next one?
Dean, it's Neil. Talk a little bit about the tuition increase impact. How do we compare relative to, you know, our main competitors in terms of cost of attendance?
Yeah, so Neil, our sticker price is one of the lowest. And even with the increase it is. The challenge is the average discount rate to hit your first year class this year was 56%. So if you take an out-of-state school at 70,000 and they are discounting at 56%, which is the average, many schools had to go over 60%. You know, that's what happens. So it's the price, but it's really that net price they're paying. And I won't know who they are really until October 15th comes out and I can show you our competitor list. But I can tell you that when you have a school that's offering a $40,000 scholarship and they're starting at 70,000, they're pricing themselves in a way, and we just don't have that discounting, right? We've talked about that for years. We try to be realistic in our tuition, but it's the discounting factor that I've seen desperate offers of 5, 6, 7,000 more on top of a discount rate that is changing kind of the way that is. And so notice I kind of answer that more on the discounting way rather than just.
I think that's exactly how you should. I mean, because it is the net that the families ultimately look at. But just for the record, what are you expecting our discount rate for the freshman class to come in at?
The in-state will be over 40%.
Okay.
The out-of-state will be in the mid-30s. And I'd be happy to have more conversations about different programs and areas based on that.
Okay.
I can answer that way.
Thanks. All right.
Want to just talk about something that is impacting us. We're starting to see, and these are just some quotes from an article from about a week ago. Governor Bikini seek the program for Rick. Notice the next one, that the Hope Scholarship is long overdue to answer enrollment woes. And my favorite one, URI's strong applicant and retention pool was why the flagship university was not included. So we have 2 state institutions that have lost over 30% in enrollment the past 10 years. In some ways, this is it's the management penalty of what we've done. I also think we're not providing access to 53 programs that we have that are unique and many of the highest paying careers that the state needs. And so I'm going to begin to be making some stronger statements on that because of the fact that I think this is important. And unfortunately, first of all, I love the fact the state is investing in us and our students, and there's nothing more important than providing scholarship money for students. But not giving it to our families to the likelihood where they will have the greatest success, to me, is a concern. And I just thought that last quote was interesting. I'd like to move on to graduate, and Brenton is here. While this is early and we need to wait till October, I just want to share some really exciting numbers from the graduate team. Current new student enrollment is up 466 versus 422, same time last year in June. Applications, just so everyone knows, there are multiple applications that feed the graduate system. And I see Brenton smiling a little bit on this. The main one is GradCAS, and that is a 5-year high. Engineering CAS is also up at 158. You have business CAS. You have a separate one for physical therapy and others, but applications look strong. Early yield looks strong, and I'm really pleased at how this is developing. Last thing I just want to add, I just talked about orientation, and I really appreciate the fact of all of you allowing me to jump on session. New student orientation occurs this month. It is a melt buster while we do it nice and early. We have 9 sessions. We're in session 5. Summer session enrollment led by John O'Leario and team is doing fantastic. Enrollment is up 10%. Revenue is up 15%. We have 3 summer sessions that we've really revitalized. And TDSSA is our TD Summer Successor Program, that academy that will begin in a couple of weeks. And then the final thing I'll just say is we have our Road to Becoming a RAM committee that is still working on MELT and onboarding military and veterans and adult students and others, and their work that is cross-campus and divisional is ongoing. And so this is an important summer time. I'm pleased with where enrollment is, and I look forward to coming back if I'm able in the fall, if you'll allow me to give some more inside baseball and updates on how we did and give you some competitor information. Thank you for your time.
Hey, Dean, thank you. Thank you very much. Questions for Dean?
I have a quick question. This is Melissa Sutherland. Thanks, Dean, for that presentation. Are there, in terms of thinking about transfers, are there certain majors or programs where we could grow that we're not offering, the ability for students to transfer, that could be in the future a place for us to consider?
Yeah, Melissa, thank you. Because we've had such strong undergrad enrollment with record numbers, there's a space capacity thing, but I will tell you some opportunities. Pharmacy is actually opening up their transfer enrollment. I'm very excited about the work of Paul. That will help us, and there's a need there. There's a tremendous desire to have nursing transfers, but we're busting at the seams of what we're doing. Our nursing faculty are doing amazing work there, and so I'm actually more excited about our master's entry program that I know is going to be developing there. To be honest with you, we're open on every transfer program except for pharmacy until now. We have great articulation agreements. The big challenge with transfers is housing. We're doing some great work on out-of-state transfers, but it's they would like housing, and again, we're balancing that with undergrad, grad, continuing, et cetera. So to me, it's not more about program, it's actually about things like housing that would help us.
Neil?
Other questions, Mark?
Yeah, thank you. Dean, so you have estimating 330 students coming from talent development program. So those are in-state Rhode Islanders, and they receive 100% tuition waiver, yes?
That is correct, Mark. Their discount
Okay,
is 100%.
so I want to just follow, let me go to the end here, because you said that the in-state we're giving 40% on average. How many in-staters are you expecting again?
I think we're going to come in at around 1250 to 1260, about 90 below, correct?
Okay, so a quarter, so this is my question. A quarter of the incoming class is basically through talent development. Is that right for the in-state students?
That will be the first time this year. That is correct.
Yeah, and of that quarter, they're already receiving 100%. So I'm just thinking for the other 75% of the incoming class, what's the typical then reduction then? Is it about 10% or something like that?
So Mark, in terms of summer melt, we actually cut it from about 12 to 7% last year.
Okay.
And from a discounting perspective, it's still a little early to be able to know all those numbers because it's still developing, which is why I mentioned it'll be somewhere probably in the low to mid 40s. So I don't know if you were asking about discounting rate or about summer melt. So
Discounting rate. I was just trying to calculate on the 40%. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Dean.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Any other questions for Dean?
Just one, Neil, Charlie Fogarty again,
Sure,
Dean.
Charlie?
I'm glad to see our numbers are close to target and that we're doing well, but always looking at those articles about the fall off and the demographics coming up in a few academic years. I think it's 2025. They're talking about the number of high school students available nationally, and of course in Rhode Island it will be even lower. And I guess I'm wondering, are we looking at a smaller student body size from that point forward, or do you think we can remain competitive and keep to our current size with respect to class and overall student enrollment?
We survived one of the largest cliffs in that data the past 10 years through collaboration strategy and growing. I think we could maintain the number. However, hope and promise will change that. So the big thing for me is I think we can create great strategies to meet that target, but I cannot control if we are left at a deficit recruiting and yielding and educating Rhode Islanders. And so to me, I'm not worried about the overall cliff because we've got finished what you started and other great programs. My biggest concern is being an important playmaker for the state and to create those engineers and marine biologists and others. And so that's how I'll answer that question today.
Okay, thank you.
Dean, thanks. Certainly
Thank you
more
all
to
for your
come.
time. I appreciate it.
Okay, sure. All right, we're going to move now to the report of the Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Wolf, and she's joined by Dr. Ann Vieger, who I think will add items during the course of the report. Barbara?
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone. What I thought I'd do is let's start out with the search updates. As you know, we have 3 searches going on for 3 deans, the College of Pharmacy, the College of Nursing, and the College of Health Sciences. And they are underway, actively underway. The work plan for each committee has been established with potential candidates already identified, as well as more continuing to be identified. Advertisements have been posted, and we have plans to review the candidates, an initial review in June, July, a second interview of semifinalists in August, and then finalists who are coming in for interviews will be in early September. So we're actually pleased that that is on schedule and moving forward. Any questions about search? Okay, the second item is just to give you a little flavor of some of the current academic initiatives that are underway. We have a number of topics that will be delved into more in various retreats that are occurring at the end of the summer. And I'd like to just highlight a couple of those for you. One is our honors program. We had an external review that was done. It is complete. We had a number of very, very helpful suggestions from our external reviewers as to how to enhance the robustness of the program. And so that, in fact, is a topic of a retreat at the end of the summer involving the program director, deans, and other individuals for how do we continue to enhance the quality of that experience. Another area that we're looking at is that of advising. We now have our KPIs that are very explicit related to colleges being more engaged in the process of monitoring outcomes, including the retention, persistence, and graduation rates of our students. And so the deans have a desire to be actively, certainly engaged in that process, which is good. And so we're looking at how do we move forward with a continuing on an enhanced contemporary advising practice going forward. Right now, the first year happens under something called UCAS, and then after that, they matriculate into their various colleges for advising. So looking as to how we might be able to make it more streamlined across the four-year experience. We're also looking at standards of excellence, and this relates to our promotion and tenure process and criteria. In particular, it's looking at our current standards, at how they're evaluated, and how we continue to establish and create that community of scholars with upholding those standards. And this, in part, is on the heels of just having gone through the promotion and tenure process in my current role. And we're starting with a debrief in the Council of Deans retreat this summer, looking at some of the observations that have occurred from that experience and how do we continue to move forward with continuous improvement in that area. And I think that that's a normal thing that should happen. It's not that it's anything particularly bad, but how do we continue to make sure that we are upholding the standards of a community of scholars? And by doing that, that can really only continue to lead to either validation of the process or, again, of improving the quality of that process. Another area that, so those are the three I just wanted to highlight. We have a lot of different things going on. We're also looking at artificial intelligence and how do we have some synergy across the various areas that are going on in that area so that we can bring people together to make things that were not duplicative of effort. So artificial intelligence in another area that's beginning to get more of a look at is entrepreneurship. How do we really help prepare those areas and moving forward in the experience that our students can have? If we look at also related to current academic initiatives, although it is its own item, is the academic unit action plans. And that, as you know, relates to the strategic plan. And we're pretty close to being complete with collecting the action plans from all of our academic units. And they're actually being reviewed again because we want to confirm that, in fact, we have measurable outcomes associated with the actions. And then we also need to recognize that we have 4 colleges that either have interim deans or a brand new dean. So there certainly may be some adjustments that need to be made as those people come into play so that they can bring their vision to the college that also is aligned with the strategic plan going forward. So just to give you an idea about that. The other item that I have on here that I thought that would be worth spending a little time on is new URI online graduate programs that you're going to be seeing over the course of the next forthcoming meetings, and a little bit of a explanation about why that is and what that involves. And this is really, again, another area of an academic initiative, but it deserves its own space in terms of its importance. And it's actually directly related to several strategic priorities that we now have in our strategic plan. First would be, if we look at priority 4, there's goal number 4 under that area, and it's related to expanding new academic programs through an increased focus on revenue generation. this has an opportunity of providing some revenue going forward to help the sustainability of some of the various activities that are going on at the university. Also, strategic plan number 2, goal number 2, increasing graduate student enrollment. If we really want to double graduate student enrollment, we need to think about how we do it, but making sure that we are offering programs that are relevant and needed by our employers and community. And that's also related to strategic plan 1, goal number 1, continuing to broaden and deepen our impact on the various ecosystems across Rhode Island and beyond. So we've been very purposeful in terms of pushing and looking at these areas, particularly related to the demand for online programming. We know that people in the workforce find that venue is particularly attractive to them in terms of accessibility to enhanced education. And we've looked at these programs and came up with these particular programs through a number of different ways. Some of them are identified by industry partners, workforce markets, as well as other market assessments that highlight those areas for future growth. And that includes, for example, reports that we get from places like Hanover. So the other thing that we learned, and Dr. Vika can also speak to this, is that by offering master's programs, that actually allows greater access for employed individuals to enhance their education. Because if it's a degree granting or a degree type of program, those are likely to be reimbursed by employers than if it's a certificate. So I have here listed for you examples of 3. One is the Master's of Environment Management. That's a stackable professional graduate degree and allows us to reach a larger audience and grow our presence. Another example would be for the Master's of Professional Studies. And this is something that offers a path to interdisciplinary graduate degree, and it builds on URI online certificates with the requirement of additional coursework. And the professional studies includes an integrated and applied capstone project as well. And again, it's targeted toward the working individual who wants to expand that skill set. And then we have a master's in health outcomes and data analytics. And again, this is a hot topic right now and certainly an area of growing demand. And here we're focused on combining data science skills with applied methods for evaluating, for example, medication outcomes, as well as how to inform decisions related to healthcare. Yet there's another program that you'll hear in a bit when we go to action items, and that's the Master's in Professional Science. And this is a new model of looking at how do we offer flexible pathways that focus on a core science area, but also has an underlying core of business courses that can allow that individual to then use those skills in that particular domain. So I'm going to ask Anne if there are other things that you particularly would like to comment here.
Sure, I'll just add a few things. I think one of the things that we've been discovering as we've been launching these online programs is that, you know, the adult population is looking for flexibility to be able to customize their graduate training experience to meet their particular needs. And so one of the things that we've tried to do is not only have certificate programs, which are really only 4 courses, so it's something that can be completed quite quickly, really in 2 semesters, but be able to combine those in a variety of ways to achieve a graduate credential that allows that person to either advance in their current position, perhaps take on a leadership role, or set them up to be able, you know, to look for a new opportunity elsewhere in their industry. And so you'll see that we have programs that target very specific areas. And then you'll also see these programs that are intentionally designed to provide considerable flexibility so that students can find a program that best meets their needs and be able to move through it quickly and efficiently to achieve that graduate degree.
Thank you. Questions?
Just one on the, on the market for the online masters. Is there any preliminary or early indication of what these programs might grow to in terms of annual enrollment?
I would say that our healthiest programs, when they've drawn a full cohort, have been bringing in between 25 and 30 students in an admission cohort. One of the things that we've also found is you get a bit of a novelty bump when we launch a new program, and it's kind of the low-hanging fruit to the people in our immediate area who are interested in engaging in that. And so one of the things that we're working hard on is figuring out what is the appropriate marketing and partnership strategy that we need to develop to ensure that we have a steady stream of students in these programs. What we would like to see are, cohorts of at least 20 to 25 students enrolling in these programs. That really makes it sustainable from a financial standpoint, from a faculty effort standpoint, and provides the students who are in the program with a good network of new colleagues that they've established while going through the graduate program.
And I guess related to that, Ann, what kind of early indications are there in terms of partner development? I mean, is there something where you're really hitting a felt need, or do you have to educate corporate and organizational partners about the benefits of these cohort-based degrees?
What we're learning is it is very beneficial to find out what the corporate partner needs for their employees, and then be able to have the flexibility to tailor it to meet their needs. Sean, who happens to be on the call now as the new Dean of Business, Sean, you might want to say a little something about the healthcare management master's degree and what you did to help grow the enrollment in that program.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to share. When I took it over a couple of years ago, we had about 9 students in it. And about 18 months, we were able to grow it to 42 students. And really that's educating local business community, healthcare community, going out and having conversations at Kent Hospital and other hospitals around, and really just ginning up excitement about the program, particularly at URI, because that degree program was housed in an accredited business school. It was extremely attractive to the healthcare community who were looking for leadership and management training for their next level leaders. So I think it's really about getting out there, educating, but also understanding what their needs are and presenting them with a really attractive product.
Okay, well, thanks, Sean. And so you're reasonably confident that there's a large enough corporate and organizational base to make these successful, correct?
Yes, and it will be a combination. It will be a combination of employees who are being sponsored by companies, but also for people who are looking to retool and to advance in a career direction where they see an opportunity. So we may have some specialized programs, and that's the beauty of some of these flexible pathways, to be able to take one and tweak it to meet specifically the needs of a corporate partner, while at the same time being able to continue to recruit from the general graduate student population.
Okay, thank you, Ann. Thank you, Barbara. Any questions for Barbara, Laura Ann? We have some action items later in the agenda when Barbara will be back discussing some program starts and terminations. But hearing no additional questions, I'd like to turn now to the report of the Chief Research Officer and welcome Bethany Jenkins. This is her first report in her capacity as Interim Vice President for Research and Economic Development. And she's going to be joined by Mr. Christian Collin, who's the Executive Director of the URI Research Foundation. And if I'm not mistaken, this is our first report from Christian as well. So Bethany, you want to get us started and then have Christian join us, and we'll see if there are any questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Chairman Kerwin. We have some slides to share with you, and I thought I would get it started and then pass the conversation over to Christian. So let me share my slides. Let me go to presenter mode here. Okay, are you all seeing my first slide?
We have it?
All right, excellent. So this is just to introduce myself to those of you that may be new board members that I haven't had a chance to meet in my previous role as the faculty member on the URI Board of Trustees. So I'm shifting roles here and really enjoying the ability to report to you as I've been in this role for a little over 2 months. So I just wanted to share a little bit with you sort of my governing philosophy as I go forward in this interim position. And really, I've been spending some time thinking about how to foster and steward a research ecosystem with all the components that come into that ecosystem. And so you can see this diagram with kind of at the center, the people doing the research, our faculty, postdocs, and students, outward to all of the entities at the university that are interacting directly with those researchers, and then entities on the outside of the circle that really help us take our research and transmit that to the outside world. The Board of Trustees being a really important component of that, government relations, communications, philanthropy at the URI Foundation and the URI Research Foundation. And then, of course, we're in dialogue with national and global partners, other Rhode Island institutions, and regional partners. So I've been spending some time getting to know people in equivalent roles at other institutions within Rhode Island and neighboring states. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of my priorities in this role and kind of what the real near-term priorities have been since I've started, and then looking forward into the future. And so one of the things that's been really important is just working with and building relationships with other folks in URI leadership. And I really appreciated the welcome of the president and provost to regular conversations, as well as a presence in other leadership roles to have dialogue with deans of colleges, for example, so that I have a good sense of where the university is going and the strategic initiatives, as well as our budget planning processes. I've looked internally to really build a relationship with the personnel in my office, listening to them, stabilizing some of the workforce, slowing down some retirements to help critical functions, thinking long-term about the health of some of the committees that are essential for the functioning of a research program, like the IRB board. This is where we have to vet all human subjects research through this board, and it's chaired by a faculty member. So to think responsibly about how we attract and compensate and stabilize faculty roles in these critical research positions. And then the other thing that's been really important, as you heard about some of the dean searches, we've had an active search for an associate vice president of research administration. This is the individual that helps the office really run on a day-to-day basis. And I'm pleased to say that we've completed our interviews with our top 3 candidates. And so that's moving forward as quickly as I can move forward with it. So staying tuned on that. We hope to have somebody in that role soon. Near term, over the summer, I've been setting up meetings with deans and associate deans to foster open and frequent communication with our colleges. I've been really enjoying getting to know and working closely with the URI Research Foundation, and you'll hear from Christian to sort of think about how they can help URI partner on new granting opportunities. And again, really working on some funded initiatives that longer term with our regional partners in academic and industry. And then longer term, I have to move a window here, sorry about that. I'm going to be spending time really assessing URI's research strengths and supporting bottom-up initiatives that are really coming out of some of our areas of strengths and faculty-driven research. I want to elevate URI's global research profile and activities, and as a key performance indicator, really to help increase and double URI's extramural research portfolio. All right, I apologize. My slides are a little. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of opportunities, and what you'll hear from Christian really ties into this. So we heard about entrepreneurship on the academic side of the university. The National Science Foundation has an entirely new directorate for technology, innovation, and partnerships, the TIP directorate. You may have heard about this. It comes out of the CHIPS and Science Act that was recently passed. And it's about $88 million in new funding for FY23 for the National Science Foundation in STEM. And so the key piece of this is not only meant to be conducted in an academic silo, but this authorization is really to think about regional innovation engines, innovative translation accelerators, and over 125 million for entrepreneurial fellows, testbed scholarship, research and development, and other activities. So really this new director at NSF is translating science into the world and industry partnerships. And this is where I think the fact that we do have a foundation that knows how to do this is going to be critical in helping URI faculty compete within this directorate. Many folks are not really set up and ready to go to be extremely competitive in this new initiative. And I think we've got resources in place that can really help our faculty capture some of these new monies at the National Science Foundation. And so the TIP Directorate provides, really some new opportunities, and we've been taking advantage of some of these. The URI Research Foundation was in dialogue with Brown when I stepped into this role for an NSF Accelerating Research Translation proposal, and we worked together, and Dean DeBoeuf led the URI component of this project to which has direct monies to fund URI graduate students in translational opportunities working with industry partners. So this is an example of building out, and these art proposals require another institution to be your mentor. So in the case of this Brown-led proposal, Columbia University is their mentor, and it's our aspiration in a year or two that perhaps Brown could be our mentor as we lead one as URI. So stay tuned on that. But these are the kinds of new opportunities that TIP Directorate is providing. Another area that's really growing is offshore wind. There's been a lot of bottom-up activity amongst faculty across a number of colleges, including the College of Environment and Life Science, the College of Engineering, the Graduate School of Oceanography, in thinking about ways to do science and research around offshore wind. We had a letter of intent go out for a Department of Energy center in offshore wind. There's some regional partnerships growing, and so that's a really exciting area. And I realize I'm talking kind of fast because I'm being mindful of time, but please, if folks have questions, jump in.
Thank you, Bethany. I know we are pressed a little bit today because we got a full agenda, but we want to hear as much as we can from you and from Christian.
Great. So this, I believe, is my last slide. I just wanted to highlight some of our real recent successes. We had the NSF director, Dr. Pachanathan and Jack Reed visit URI. And I'm sort of tooting my own horn with this picture down to the lower left, which is Ponch, as he's known, pictured with members of my lab in front of their research poster. I was able to bring him through new space in the George and Ann Ryan Institute for Neuroscience to highlight some of the new research done by some of the earlier career investigators in the Ryan Institute, and they really appreciated his visit and their students being able to talk to him. And finally, we've had a really successful Plastics Global Symposium. You can see President Parlange and Senator Whitehouse highlighting the work there. This was, I really give credit to my predecessor, Dr. Peter Snyder, because this was envisioned under his leadership, and our team was well underway planning this when I stepped into it. But it was a real success and brought together some great scientific dialogue. I mentioned the Centers of Excellence in Offshore Wind. That's a really exciting and growing area. And then I've been working closely with colleagues across campus to think about process improvements to funded research. And one was working with Dean DeBoeuf on how we budget for graduate students to streamline that process a little bit. And so those types of efforts will continue over the upcoming year. So with no further ado, if I can figure out how to stop. Now I see the stop sharing. I will pass the baton over to Christian.
Well, thank you, Bethany. And we may have questions for you after Christian's presentation.
Thank you, Chair Kerwin. I will, now I'm going to do the same dance Bethany did to try to get my video sharing. Bear with me for just a minute. See if this works right. And then present.
Okay.
Good on my end, Christian.
Great. Thank you, Bethany. And thanks again, Chair Kerwin. And very nice to meet you. Several of you I have not yet met in the past. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. I thought to go just to talk a little bit about my background and how I joined the Research Foundation to give my perspective. My background, I've spent pretty much my whole career in private industry. I came to Rhode Island to work in a manufacturing company called Arkwright Incorporated, which was a textile manufacturer where I designed and built all the production equipment in that facility. I then went to American Power Conversion, APC, which was a great Rhode Island story back in the time. And as I say, it's where I cut my career teeth, where I started in engineering, went into product management, marketing, mergers and acquisitions. I traveled around the world working in production facilities in China and India and the Philippines, et cetera. It was a great experience. After that, I worked at an MIT spinout, working in manufacturing lithium-ion batteries, and then bounced around to a couple local startups, at which point I went to URI back in 2014. By the way, when I was at Arkwright, my first job is when I got my MBA from URI at Knights. It was also a great experience, but so that was the reason why I went back to URI in 2014 and asked if there was any company startup programs that I could help be a mentor, because coming off of several startup companies I had worked with, and they said no, not right now, but we have this Polaris MEP program that really needs a remake. I didn't know what it was, but that was my focus when I came into the URI Research Foundation, was strictly Polaris MEP, which is part of a federal program. So there is one MEP center in every state, just one, a little bit like senators. The good reason is, the good thing about that is we get a strong voice nationally as small Rhode Island. And the job of all the MEP centers is health of small to medium manufacturers across the state. What that means is we have staff. Back then it was 3 project managers and myself that are really deployed in all the small manufacturers across the state of Rhode Island. So my background in manufacturing and technology, it was a lot of fun for me. I got to know really the whole manufacturing landscape in the state. We had some work to do. The program was pretty stagnant for a few years before I got there. But I was wholly focused on Polaris at the time. My manufacturing background, that program has $1 million annual renewable grant, which pays, but it's cost reimbursement. So there's a match required. And that program really needed to get more activity executing projects in the manufacturing companies. I still say to this day, when I go to the Polaris office, if I go there and there's no one in the office, we're all doing our jobs, because we're all deployed in the manufacturing companies, understanding what they need and helping them get better from a growth and sustainability standpoint. So back in 2014, that was my focus. The intellectual property side of the Research Foundation was mildly active back then. As I grew Polaris and we got a little bit more active and we were having great impacts with these manufacturing companies, the state started engaging us more and more. So they asked us to be partnered with CCRI to do training for these manufacturers in New England Tech. We Make Rhode Island, the Steel Yard, and really helping enable all these training programs for metal manufacturing, plastic manufacturing, electronics, et cetera. So we became more and more active. And as we did that, I began have the ability to pick my head up and look into other parts of the Research Foundation to make sure that we're leveraging all the different aspects and growth and sustainability of this ecosystem, technology-based ecosystem in the state of Rhode Island. And also, please, I can't totally see you all, but please interrupt me if anyone has any questions. I'm happy to answer them. Back in 2022, so last year, the board, there is a board, fiduciary board of the URI Research Foundation approved the first strategic plan. The statement of purpose that was created by the board and approved by the board here, leading driver of economic prosperity for Rhode Island. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Engaging URI research, manufacturing community, and entrepreneurship in Rhode Island's commercial and technology ecosystem. So it talks there about a research ecosystem, and as we grew Polaris, that research ecosystem became more vibrant and more active and impactful as we went along and grew. There are 3 different units. I call them business units of the Research Foundation. I talked a bit about Polaris on the left, and that's where really I started. As I began to get more interested and Polaris became more mature, I became more interested in helping these companies with top line impact programs, because Polaris is really focused on bottom line impact programs, lean manufacturing, quality systems, inventory moves. That's what our project managers are deployed in manufacturers helping them with. I became more and more interested in helping them with top line impact programs. And the 2 business units to the right there really are focused on that. 401 TechBridge is essentially a spin out of Polaris, partnered with the Navy, encouraged by Senator Whitehouse to really create a materials focused technology commercialization program. And then URI Ventures, which that name came up probably 3 or 4 years ago, was really focused on the technology transfer and entrepreneurship programs. That right-hand side, the technology and IP commercialization side, has still remained flat, I'll call it, for a variety of different reasons. Staffing is not the least of which. We just recently, I think luckily for all of us, Fatih Abdeslam now reporting into Bethany. We expect good things with him talking with existing and new faculty about new intellectual property and opportunities for the Research Foundation to connect into our partners and into that research ecosystem to enable more licensing and royalty deals to really commercialize more and more of the research coming out of the university. A little bit of a breakdown, and I'm conscious of time like Bethany, so a little bit quickly, just from a perspective of those 3 different business units. You'll see Polaris is the biggest piece of 401 TechBridge. Again, that's manufacturing company support, and it's got the biggest portion of our staff associated with it on the Polaris side of it. And again, those are people that are deployed helping identify new manufacturing companies and support their sustainability and growth. 401 TechBridge is there as well. A lot of the money this is also people in here, is passed through coming through the Research Foundation for some of our partners like CCRI and New England Tech, but also we do a lot of programs where we support our manufacturing companies with funds supporting some of their activities. The green is the intellectual property commercialization, and the URI Research Foundation label there is essentially special projects that we do with the university or with the state to make sure we're being a good steward of that research ecosystem. A little bit about some things that we've done recently that I just want to talk about that I'm proud of. We have a very strong community engagement aspect of the Research Foundation. The picture on the left there, we just did a ribbon cutting at a space embedded into a Providence suburb. The training program is called JARC, which stands for the Jane Addams Resource Center. The woman in the green dress is Reagan Brewer, who is their CEO, where we're doing metal machining training for underserved communities embedded into Providence. Everyone's got very high hopes, including me, into that space and what we'll do for the ecosystem there. The two pictures on the right there, although may look strange, they're intentionally just have arms. We just completed a training program in the Women's Department of Corrections, where we were able to support installation of those metal machining equipment. We trained inmates that were getting ready for release in order to make sure that they don't go back into prison quickly, because that is a big problem that actually nationally is getting some attention. So Polaris led that program. That graduation was, I believe, 6 people. And the graduation where they all talked was transformational in some of their lives. So proud of that. We also have a lot of youth engagement as well. Some of these pictures are from a manufacturing fair that we had in Farm Fresh, which is an open space in Providence where we bussed in high school students. And the booths that you'll see are manufacturing companies that came and exhibited their technology to try to get youth excited about technology and manufacturing specifically. The lower picture on the lower left-hand corner is a STEM program that we help Newark run on base with Newark, called the CPERCH program, where Newark needed an external partner to help connect with the schools, which we've got a fair amount of competency in, and really help execute it with things that Newark is not able to do themselves. 2 other programs of note that I just wanted to mention, RI Made, which is Department of Defense program award that we were awarded to support the manufacturing supply chain into electric boat here, really in Rhode Island, but really the whole defense supply chain. And we very specifically are using students and faculty, injecting them into those manufacturing companies that we already have relationships with, having them do analysis on automation and cyber, and then helping them implement the recommended solutions. And then the other program is called Rise Up, which is in partnership with Alaska and Hawaii, where we're looking to, in all 3 states, start up entrepreneurial ecosystem to encourage startup programs coming out of universities and encourage them with funding in space, et cetera, to continue their ventures to solve big Navy problems from disparate places of the country connected to the ocean. So that's an exciting program. And, lastly, I just a little bit repeat some of what Bethany had said. A lot of these community-based programs and a lot of these very close, intimate relationships that we have with local manufacturers are really, we're using those relationships and those informational data sets to support a lot of applications and initiatives that are coming out of the federal government. Bethany mentioned the NSF TIPS work. We've also got the CHIPS Act, which has got different implementations, not the least of which is the Tech Hubs program that's coming out of it. NOAA just released some coastal applications coming out. There's an EDA build to scale, and they all have very similar sentiments of community engagement, industry engagement, and I think the Research Foundation, again, given that transition that I explained of how the Research Foundation has evolved, I think we have a unique position to help some of those initiatives. And Bethany and I have had some great, exciting conversations from my perspective on if and how we can help in a in a different way and give URI in the state a good opportunity to apply for them and win at a different rate. So that's all I had for slides.
Christian, thank you very much. It's very informative for me, for sure. And I want to, before we open for questions, I want to let the committee know that we may have to extend the time of the meeting by a few minutes to ensure that we complete the business, because we have also a very, very important report coming up on the diversity status of the university. But so if Charlie and I are available for a few minutes, a little
Sure.
longer than we would ordinarily be, we'd appreciate that, and others to stay on as well who have business before the committee.
Neil, you're the boss.
Yeah, well, when there's only two of us, Charlie, so we should be able to work it out. Well, questions now for Bethany and or Christian. I mean, I think we all are cognizant of the fact that that this dimension of the university's work is crucial, not just to the institution, but to the entire state and indeed the nation if it's done well. And this is a particularly important partnership between the office that Bethany oversees, Christian, and of course the foundation itself. So I assume this will be the first of many reports of this kind and updates, and the committee's very anxious to see this partnership develop, in a mutually beneficial way. But for now, questions for Bethany or for Christian?
Just a general question. How do we get more Rhode Islanders, more policymakers and others to be aware of this great activity going on and the need to continue to support it, and how it can contribute to the overall mission of the university? I think, again, it's kind of one of those, I won't say a well-kept secret, but I'm not sure a lot of people are familiar with all of the things that are going on and the potential that exists.
Thanks, Charlie. I'll answer this and pass it over to Christian. So one of the things that I think is really important is kind of internally for me and our URI research community to be aware of what the foundation's doing, the communities it's deeply connected with, so that people are aware of opportunities for partnerships, and likewise the reverse dialogue for the foundation to also be very well versed on what our research portfolio looks like, because Christian is out in the state and he can speak to this more than I am, but in terms of really what being very well known across the state with our state leadership. And maybe you can talk about a little bit, Christian, your community-based organizations and really these entities that you touch that are a little bit more removed for those of us at the university.
Christian, you still with us?
Well, while Christian's coming back on, I can speak to it a little bit. There's the Black Chamber of Commerce, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Workforce development is such a need across our state. And so you heard about some of those activities from the foundation, but it takes time to build these real partnerships and the dialogue of trust between folks going into these communities. And I would say that the more the foundation is aware of the strengths the university has, they can carry that out, and it kind of will move back and forth. At least that's my hope, as we maintain these strong ties and communication. So I'll kind of answer that now, and if Christian comes back on, he can speak to that. I know we've got other business, but this is something I think is all about communication and understanding of what these entities are doing. So I see Christian's back now.
Christian, did you hear the Charlie's question?
I did, yes. I apologize. I'm on my phone now. Sorry, something happened with my internet connection here. I did miss part of Bethany's answer, but I think I know where she was going. I do agree that there's work we need to do for a nice, easy to understand, consolidated message for everyone. Polaris has some presence out there, as I heard Bethany said. we do have some activity going on with the State House, but really getting a nice clear message of all of these things that we're doing and how they benefit the university and the state and even broader. I think your point is well taken that we should get very intentional to make sure that message is clearer and communicated in a better way than it has been in the past.
Charlie, does that answer the question?
Thank you.
Okay, good. Other questions?
The more light we can shine on it, the better.
Yeah, agreed. Well, listen, let me thank you on behalf of the committee and actually the full board. I mean, I think we're really determined to see that this partnership work. More to the point that the strategic plan that Mark has led makes it plain that the university's ambitions with regard to research, broadly defined, is a central element of this institution's future. And you know, Bethany and Christian, you're playing a very, very important role in that. So we expect, again, to be hearing on the progress that you make on a pretty regular basis.
Thank you very much.
Now, a very important report, an annual responsibility of the university and this board is to meet the legislatively mandated obligation to report on the progress being made with regard to diversity and inclusion at the University of Rhode Island. We're fortunate to have had Sean Rogers, who's now the dean of our School of Business, to be the leader in this effort for a time. And Sean, I think you'll be presenting this report knowing that there'll probably be others taking over, you know, that very, very critical role you've played for a number of years.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chair Kerwin. Can people hear me okay?
Yeah, very good.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So look, and also on the call is the interim assistant vice president for community equity and diversity, Michelle Fonts, who will become more involved in the communicating of the activities and achievements of this Office of Community Equity and Diversity. It's been a pleasure serving in this role in the past, over the past, what was it, 16 or so months, maybe a little bit more. And really that year or that time span was characterized, and this is reflected in the report, in the written report that we submitted at the top of May, by really three things. And it was sort of transition and level setting across campus and for the university, one, innovation and achieving results, two, and then three, dynamic growth. So transition and level setting. When I came in, we really wanted to enhance and reset how the campus thinks about diversity and inclusion, and not looking to the Office of Community Equity and Diversity as this singular office and this function that solves all of the problems or pursues all of the challenges and opportunities in the diversity and inclusion space for the university. But instead, what I wanted to do was build DEI capacity and thinking and outcomes really at the local level. So decentralizing that. And we did a number of things in that direction. Certainly you saw the implementation of diversity officers at the unit level, whether they're at in the various colleges or in athletics and what have you. And also we had 4 what I call diversity enhancing centers that really worked across campus. This is our Multicultural Student Services Center, our Women's Center, our Military and Veteran Education Center, and our Gender and Sexuality Center that's really helping to do this work. And when I joined, only 2 of those centers had directors and the other 2 were vacant. I'm happy to say we filled all 4 of those positions, and all 4 of those centers are firing on all cylinders and doing the great work around campus. Innovation and achieving results was something that I also really harped on, right? It wasn't good enough to just do DEI work, but what is the outcome of that? What is the impact, and how are we changing the lives of students who attend URI and our faculty and staff who work at the university? And so we saw a number of accomplishments in that area, whether it is specific training that was delivered to students, faculty, and staff that resulted in enhanced knowledge and also activity and behavior that really supported our campus. Michelle and her team actually secured a nationally competitive 6-year, HHMI, Howard Hughes Medical Institute grant, the Inclusive Excellence Grant, that is targeted to enhancing belonging and academic success among students of color. And we saw so many other things across our campus that really sort of pointed to us actualizing and realizing the fruits of our investments in these areas. And then finally, dynamic growth. And Dean talked a bit about this. Over 30% of our students identify as first in family. That's the most recent incoming class. So this was the class that actually came in the last academic year, because that report covered the previous academic year. 25% of that incoming class was racially or ethnically diverse. Over 3,000 current URI students are Pell Grant recipients, and the list goes on and on. Over 500 new students were signed up and identified to work with our Disability Access and Inclusion Office. We've got a leading edge office that is ensuring that individual students with disabilities have the same access and the same high quality education that all of our students, that we afford to all of our students. So we're excited about everything that we've achieved. We've been doing a lot of work. A lot of work remains to be done. We've accomplished some things and seen some things happen in the past year that we've been asking for 30 years. One big thing that we celebrated a few months ago was the coming down of the Malcolm X misquote on the Carruthers Library, right? For 30 years, that thing went up in 1992, and it's really caused a stir on campus since that time. A truncated quote that really sort of mischaracterizes a very sort of popular sentiment from Malcolm X. We got that down to make sure that we can really sort of meet the needs and create a climate on campus that welcomes everyone. Also, for the first time in 30 years, we've seen leadership in our Department of Athletics, led by Thor, and Thor's been a great supporter of the work that we're doing. We stood up an associate athletic director, a student athlete development and inclusive excellence. Really, again, getting on the leading edge of NCAA programs, having a point person who's part of the executive leadership team of athletics, who's really helping to create a climate and culture that welcomes and includes all of our students. These sort of requirements and mandates are coming down from NCAA. We're increasingly hearing about them. And so I'm excited that Thor and President Parlange and the team were really eager to get out in front and just be a leader in this space and an innovator and say, let's not wait until it gets mandated. We need to make sure that all of our student athletes are really enjoying their experience here at URI. So those are just a few examples of things that we've got going on. I'm happy to speak to it more. I'll probably speak to it along with Michelle in the upcoming meeting, but I'm happy to take any of your questions. Thank you, Chair Kerwin.
Sean, thank you very, very much. I mean, those of you who, I'm sure we've all read the report is extensive, it's comprehensive. I think it demonstrates that, the progress that's being made and has been made in a number of areas. And Sean, as you pointed out, progress that still needs to be made in certain categories. I was particularly interested in seeing the data on faculty and the number of assistant professors of color that now are part of our family. And now that bodes well for a pipeline that will ultimately result in associate and fulls, where we still have some work to do. Michelle, let me first welcome you and congratulate you on the HHMI competitive grant. I mean, I'm quite familiar with those. I understand what it takes to secure one. So congratulations to you for your leadership on that, and we're looking forward to working with you, in the months and years to come. Sean, yeah, you're right. I mean, there'll be a report to the full board. Margot asked me to ensure that you were ready for that obligation, and perhaps to focus on some of these pipeline issues as you see them developing. How well your work and the work that Michelle is undertaking, how well that sets a foundation for even much greater progress in the future. We'd be remiss, however, if we did not thank you for your stewardship of this, critically important role, Sean. And your reward is you made you dean at the School of Business. So congratulations on that as well. But questions now from the floor on the report or some of the points that Sean's made, or any questions for Michelle?
I just wanted to say hello to all of you. There are some of you on the call I haven't met yet. And I also want to say that HHMI project there are a myriad of people that are involved. I'm just one piece of that puzzle. There's a lot of people doing a lot of diligent work for that Excellence Award. So I just wanted to make sure I clarified that. Thank you.
Well, thanks. Yeah, no,
Thank you, Michelle.
but it does take leadership, and we understand it's a community-wide effort, and frankly, that's what makes it as valuable as it is, as a granting element. Okay, well, if there are no additional questions for Sean on the report, I think we can now turn to our action item agenda. And the first of these action items is, one of the most important things that a board of trustees undertakes during its work every year. We, as an academic affairs and research committee, are responsible to report to the board on this item, and that is the review of granting of tenure to University of Rhode Island faculty, I guess effective on July 1 of this year. Provost Wolf will provide us some background on that.
Great, thank you. So you have in enclosure 5.A a list of individuals who have been reviewed and recommended for tenure. This occurs at a college level, it occurs at a university level. And this includes 3 individuals who are being promoted to full professor, 32 individuals promoted to associate professor, and 2 additional individuals who are newly hired into senior faculty roles in the College of Business and the College of Education. And again, this is an extensive process that is done at a number of different levels, also online. And the number of candidates who are in the pool is also presented there for you for your review as well.
Okay. Do we have any questions for the provost regarding any of the individual actions that she is recommending to us, or the totality of the cohort of colleagues that are being granted tenure and promotion? If not, could I have then a motion that the Academic Affairs and Research Committee of the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the granting of tenure effective July 1, 2023 to the designated faculty members who have met the requirements for tenure at the University of Rhode Island as recommended and presented in enclosure 5A.
Charlie Fogarty, so moved.
Second, Neil Kerwin. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, the motion carries, and congratulations to these newly tenured and promoted colleagues. The next action item is housekeeping requirement. It is the amendment to the Academic Affairs Research Committee Charter with a recommendation to the URI Board of Trustees. This change in charter is relatively minor, ministerial, and that is altering the liaison responsibilities with regard to diversity and inclusion from this committee to another on the board. Do we have any questions about this amendment to the charter? We have discussed it and reviewed it in a previous meeting. Okay, then can I have a motion that the Academic Affairs and Research Committee of the URI Board of Trustees recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the amendments to the committee charter as recommended and presented in enclosure 5B.
Charlie Fogarty, so moved.
Second, Neil Kerwin. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any discussion? The motion is approved unanimously. The third item is the review of amendments to the Academic Affairs and Research Committee calendar and the recommendation of the same to the URI Board of Trustees. This amendment to the calendar relates to an item that we have discussed at previous meetings. The calendar exists so that our community and all interested parties can understand how we distribute the business of the committee over the academic year. So if there is no question about these prior discussions, I'd like to have a motion that the Academic Affairs and Research Committee of the URI Board of Trustees recommend that the Board of Trustees approve amendments to the committee calendar as recommended in enclosure 5C.
Charlie Fogarty, so moved.
Second, Neil Kerwin. Any final discussion? If not, the motion carries unanimously. The fourth item is a review and approval of legislation recommended by the Faculty Senate and the President that we can see in enclosure 5D. And it regards the closure of one academic program and the start of several new master's degrees. And I'd ask the provost if she would be good enough to discuss and comment on these.
Great, thank you. We have Dean Danielle Dennis here from the College of Education here to talk to us about the closure of the URI Joint PhD in Education program. Dean Dennis, would you like to comment?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks for having me. I'll go through this quickly, but we did want to share a little information about the closure of the Joint PhD program in education. Sean, you can go to the next slide. So this program started in 1993 and was originally funded by Alan Sean Feinstein, partially funded by Alan Sean Feinstein. The intention was that the University of Rhode Island and Rhode Island College would share responsibilities, including the budget and staffing of this program. However, once funding from the Feinstein Foundation ended, URI has really provided most of the resources, including human and fiscal, while all the tuition revenue flows to Rhode Island College. Sean, can you move to the next slide, please? So in a meeting last year with the Dean of the School of Education at RIC, we agreed that the closure of the program made sense, essentially because it was mostly being taught by URI faculty. Most of the students had major professors who were URI faculty. And again, all of the resources were going to RIC based on the MOU. So the MOU was developed when the Feinstein Foundation decided to partially fund the program, and we are held to that MOU. However, through work with General Counsel, we did find that as long as one group terminated their participation in the Joint PhD program, that would terminate the entire program. And General Counsel did find that we were following the appropriate process for this, and it was communicated to the Alan Sean Feinstein Foundation through Lil O'Rourke, and we did not receive any communication in return to that. So Sean, do you mind going to the next slide, please? So over the course of this past year, our faculty have voted unanimously to close this joint PhD program, and over the past 8 months developed a new PhD in education, which will be housed at URI only. And that new PhD program was supported by the Board of Trustees in April of this year. So Sean, you can move forward, please. So there's an obvious benefit here financially in that the financials for the joint PhD program essentially brought in $2,000 to $5,800 per year to URI since fiscal year 19. And we have a modest estimate revenue of more than $250,000 in year one of the program and as high as over $3 million by year 4, based on the enrollment that we've had in the past for the joint program. It does elevate education at URI to meet our land grant and research missions. For example, we have a very interested school district who would like to bring a cohort of as many as 50 of their educators and leaders to our PhD program, which would just be a fantastic way to both start out the program, but also to just give back to our profession in a really meaningful way. And then I just have one last slide here. We do have a plan, it's in the proposal, for our current students. So just as a point of information, we did not admit any new students this year because we were intending to close this program and rebuild. As of the time of the proposal that we submitted, we had 43 students remaining. 9 of those completed their program this year. So we're at 34 now. 18 of those, so about half, requiring coursework. We have a teach-out plan that is in agreement with Rhode Island College to complete that coursework by spring of 25, and then students will still need to complete dissertation work, and we're committed to continuing to work with them. So thank you.
Thank you. Questions about the closure? As was mentioned, we did approve a doctoral program in a previous meeting of both the committee and the board. Just quickly regarding the students that remain in the old program, none of them are really at a point in the program where they could effectively transfer from that to the new PhD. Is that correct?
So we do actually have some who could transfer over with just some substitutions, and we have worked through plans, assuming that this program is closed, so that we can support them in that transfer. We would actually prefer it, but it will ultimately be up to them.
Okay, well, thank you. I think that would be beneficial from a couple of perspectives. Other questions, please. What I'd like to do, if I could, is to take action on all of the pending program actions together. So, Barbara, can I turn to you again for a discussion of the new master's degrees and perhaps reflect a moment or two on how these program starts, reflect the priorities in the new strategic plan?
Great, thank you. And again, I have Vice Provost Vieger here, who has been instrumental in helping with launching these programs. Dr. Vieger, would you like to comment?
Sure. So we have 4 new master's programs that we're bringing forward, and then we also have an undergraduate program. And Neil, would you like me to separate those out in my comments, or how would you like?
That was my mistake, and I neglected that one of these is an undergraduate program. So please do, yeah. Graduate first and then undergrad.
Okay, so we have 4 graduate programs. These are all fully online programs that are offered through the URI Online Accelerated Online Calendar, which is the 7-week accelerated calendar. Some of these we described already, but we have the Master's in Professional Master's in Environmental Management, a Professional Science Master's, a Master's in Health Outcomes and Data Analytics, and a Master's in Professional Studies. Several of these are stackable. The Master's in Environmental Management, the Professional Science Master's, and the Master's in Professional Studies are all based on a stackable certificate model that allows a student to combine discipline-specific knowledge coupled with another area of interest. In the case of the Professional Science Masters, this is in business leadership, As the name implies, the environmental management one is focused almost exclusively on areas of environmental sciences and management. And then professional studies really allows full flexibility with an integrative capstone experience that gives them an opportunity to apply the knowledge that they bring together. So the goal here really is making graduate education more accessible. There's a workforce development piece of this, opportunity to partner with industry in the area and in the region to develop programs that specifically meet their needs for workforce development. We have Dean DeBoeuf here, who is representing both the Professional Science Masters and the Master in Professional Studies, as well as Dean Sean Rogers. They are making an integral contribution to that Professional Science Masters. So if you have any questions about the particular focus of any one of these programs, either I or one of them would be happy to comment. Steve Kogut was here earlier, but I believe his schedule required him to leave, and so he's no longer with us on the call for the Health Outcomes and Data Analytics Master's Program.
Okay, one quick question on these preliminary enrollment. It's a continuation of our earlier discussion. Preliminary indications of enrollment and what those might look like when fully mature.
So each of these programs is vetted through a market research process. We collaborate with Hanover Research to really look at labor market for these kinds of things, in addition to conversations with industry partners. So our goal for all of these programs is to be able to launch with a cohort of about 15 students and then grow to a cohort of 30 students by year 3 of these programs. In terms of financial sustainability, cohort of 15 will get you to a break-even point, but that's not what we're looking at here. We're really looking at producing revenue associated with these programs. And so we're striving to hit cohorts in the range of 25 to 30 students for each of these.
Okay. Okay, we do have a question somewhere, I thought. Yeah,
Yes,
please.
Melissa Sutherland.
Melissa, yeah.
Question, do we have the faculty needed to run the programs, or will any of these require additional faculty hires or expertise?
Each one of these programs comes up with their own instructional model. So in some cases, these are being offered by existing full-time faculty, or they're offered by part-time faculty, either who have an existing relationship with the university, or in some cases, these are faculty who are who will be hired on a per course basis, who come in from industry and bring in expertise specific to this area. But in each one of those cases that's built into the financial model, they have to demonstrate how they're going to be teaching their classes, what the expected instructional expenses are associated with the program, and what their revenue stream was look like based on the number of students they will be admitting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Melissa, okay. By the way, I should have welcomed Melissa to the committee. Welcome, Melissa. I believe this is your first session with us, isn't it?
Yes, first committee meeting. Yep. Thank you.
All right. Okay, and just quickly again, sunset provisions on these new programs have you a process in mind for, an examination of these, within maybe three academic years? I mean, how do you intend to proceed on that basis?
Yeah, we're starting what I would call a program health kind of initiative, and I know that Dean DeBoeuf is doing this across kind of all of our graduate programs as well, but in particular for the URI online programs, where we're monitoring both their enrollment trends, application trends, admission trends, and then matriculated student trends, and then taking a look at what it looks like on the revenue side, and particularly the net revenue side of these things. And so our expectation is that by year 3, these programs are producing a positive revenue associated with them. And the university has a process, much like we've just seen here, for eliminating a program, that it would have to go through the faculty senate. But there's a built-in financial disincentive to running an under-enrolled program because they have to pay their own instructional expenses associated with these programs. So colleges are going to essentially be held accountable for programs that are not able to hit the revenue targets and meet their instructional expenses.
Okay, good. That's helpful to know. And then, any other questions on the master's degrees? If not, I'd like to hear about the new bachelor's degree.
Yeah, we have one new bachelor's degree program. This is coming out of the School of Education, and we have Dr. Sarah Sweetman, who is here. Sarah, would you like to say a few words about this program?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. It's been really interesting meeting so far. I have proposed a undergraduate degree in environmental education. I know we have programs in environmental sciences. Environmental education is different in that it's people facing. So the goals of the program are to build awareness and sensitivity to environmental issues, knowledge and understanding, attitudes, and then help them be able to go out and advocate and teach others about those ideas. It is one of their only, it's been requested of me for years from people in our community who have a hard time filling jobs in environmental education. So that'd be non-formal education facilities have been asking. And upon research, there's only 7 other programs across the country that have an undergraduate degree, and none of them are within the local region. So, and it's got a focus on content knowledge. So I've been working very closely with CELS, as well as program development and pedagogy, and then environmental justice.
Okay. I'm surprised there are only 7 programs nationally.
There are a lot, but I'll clarify. There are 7 undergraduate programs. There are a lot of certificate programs and quite a few master's degree programs. But what the places that I've been working with, the community is asking for is an undergraduate, because there are more entry-level jobs in this area than there are master's level.
So if approved, you'll begin recruiting with this in our undergraduate recruiting materials for the fall of 2024?
Yes.
I guess, 2024?
Yes.
All right. And then we'll have an opportunity to see what the enrollment numbers look like, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Any questions about this new degree program? Certainly the subject matter is timely. Okay, well, if not, any closing questions on this package of activity? Once again, it does all these actions seem to be in keeping with the strategic plan and the direction set forth in that. So, with that, can I have a motion that the Academic Affairs and Research Committee recommend that the Board of Trustees approve legislation recommended by the Faculty Senate and the President as recommended and presented in enclosure 5D, specifically closure of the URI joint PhD in education, new master's degree in environmental management, new master's degree in professional science, new master's degree in health outcomes and data analytics, new master's degree in professional studies, and a new bachelor's degree in environmental education.
Charlie Fogarty, so moved.
Second, Neil Kerwin. Discussion on the motion? Yeah, if not, voice vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Any abstentions? If not, the approval is unanimous. Now the final action item, which is always controversial, a motion to adjourn.
Charlie Fogarty, so moved.
Second, Neil Kerwin. All in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Enjoy your summer.
See you all in 2 weeks.
You
Yeah,
bet.
thank you so much.
Everybody in
Neil.
2 weeks. Thank you.